Hi guys, it's Amanda, and today I'll be reviewing Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This was the first Rainbow Rowell book that I have read. I read this for the Chick Lits Book Club, and that was started by Beth June 327, Oh My God Books, and Books I Love X3. I'll leave a link to all their channels down in the box. And I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. There were some problems with it, but I enjoyed it so much that I can't give it anything less and still be honest. So I can easily overlook the few things in this book that I did not like. As usual, I'm going to have a non-spoiler section first, and then I'll give you a warning that the rest of this review may contain spoilers, so if you haven't read this book, then you probably should stop watching. The story follows Kath, who has 2 constants in her life. The first is Simon Snow, which is basically a book series along the same lines as Harry Potter, and the second is her twin sister Ren. And yes, it did take me until the book pointed it out to realise that Kath and Ren makes up Catherine, which is one name, and I felt like such a dunce when I realised that I had missed that, so good on you, Rainbow Rowell. However, these 2 constants in Kath's life is about to change, with 2 things happening. The first is the last book in the Simon Snow series is going to be coming out, and the second is that she's moving to college. Kath assumes that when she moves to college, she and her sister will be roommates and everything will just continue going on. The only difference is instead of living with their dad, they get to live on campus. However, that's not quite right. Kath discovers that Ren has decided she doesn't want to live with Kath as a roommate. She wants to go out and become her own person. She doesn't want to be known as one of the twins. She wants to be a person within her own right. And while this is understandable, Kath then gets stuck in a situation she doesn't want to be part of. While Ren is all excited about moving to college and all these new experiences and meeting her new roommate, Kath is now stuck with a roommate who doesn't like her and a whole new situation which she doesn't want to be in. While Ren is more extroverted, Kath is definitely an introvert and spends most of her time writing Simon Snow fanfiction. Now, while I first thought I wouldn't like this book because I've never been that into a fandom that I have been reading fanfiction or writing fanfiction, with the exception of when I was waiting for Last Sacrifice, which is the last book in Vampire Academy, I did read 1 or 2 fanfictions, but even then it only lasted for about 2 weeks and then I was over it. So I didn't know how I'd take this, especially after hearing some mixed reviews on Eleanor and Park. So I was not having huge expectations going into this book. However, this 400 plus book was read in a day. I absolutely adored this book. It really captures the experience of that first year of university or college. I think that having the twins have such different experiences was really interesting to see the contrast in how people cope with moving into a university, and it was really lovely to have a narrator that was a writer. I thought it was really beautiful having segments of her own writing in there, and it was interesting to watch the change of voice between what Rainbow Rowell was writing and then what Kath was writing and then what the author of the Simon Snow books was writing. I really enjoyed having the segments of Simon Snow and Kath's fanfiction scattered throughout the story because it really added to the whole idea, because if we weren't given that information we wouldn't be able to connect to Simon Snow quite the same way as we were able to this way, and as he plays such an important part in this story, it was really necessary. I just connected so quickly with Kath, and I understood her struggles with trying to let go of Ren enough for Ren to become her own person, because in a lot of ways when I started uni it was very similar, because everyone became someone different. They were all trying to reinvent themselves. So it was interesting to see that reflected in the story by someone who wanted to cling to childhood. I really enjoyed the sister dynamic between Kath and Ren, and also the dynamic between Kath and Reagan, her roommate. I found it was all really interesting the way Rowell managed to put these characters together in such a way that they were believable and still exciting to watch, and you were never quite sure how they were going to react with each other, but that's what made it so believable in itself. The one flaw I did have the love interest, to me, I didn't really connect with him all that well, and it was like watching somebody else's boyfriend. You could see at times he was good for her and that he was a nice guy, but to me he never really had that spark, which I love to see in a love interest. That's not always necessary because he was a good match for Kath, and it was very well written into the book, but I just didn't care for him personally. I know a lot of other people have. If you haven't read this book, then you should go and read it because it is amazing, and the rest of this review may contain spoilers, so I wouldn't want to wreck such a great book for you. Okay. At the beginning of the book, I did not really mind whether Kath ended up with Levi or Nick, which was a little bit of a shame because usually when you've got a love triangle starting up, you expect to be drawn to one of the sides more than the other. Although, in fairness, this was never a true love triangle. It was definitely building up to one, and it just was a shame not to actually care who it ended up being with. But that being said, I think that despite what Levi did, and I don't think I ever truly entirely the character for Kath, I might not have trusted him, and I might not have liked the fact that he did that to her, but it was still a matter of he then was always there and always supportive of her. He was there when other people were not, and he was after that very, very respectful of her, which I think was very important. What was really good was the relationship that Kath ended up having with her mum. I liked the fact that Rainbow Rowell didn't just gloss it all over and make it all shiny and better just when the mother wanted to make a move. I think it was good that there was some conflict there, and I really liked how they managed to conclude that. So their relationship wasn't quite as awful as it was to start with, but at the same time it wasn't tied up in a perfect little bow. I did like how Ren's stupidity was believable. While what she does is ridiculous and dangerous and her drinking does get out of control, it is something that happens all the time, and most people don't think anything of it. Only by narrating it through Kath, who had such a different college experience, do you realize just how wrong and dangerous it is. While my university experience was probably closer to Kath's, I definitely have friends whose experience was closer to Ren's, so it was nice having that full dynamic shown in the book. I loved Reagan. I think outside the sisters, Reagan was my favourite character. Now, she wasn't that perfectly strong character. She definitely had her weaknesses, and that was really interesting to watch the dynamic grow between Reagan and Kath. They were such different people, but by the end of it, they both helped each other grow. I loved the growth that occurred in Kath throughout the book. I love the fact that by the end of it, it's her that wants to branch out and live when Ren is trying to pull her in closer. This is one of those books that I'm really, really glad I bought rather than borrowed, because I know I'm going to read it again and again and again, and I'm now definitely looking forward to reading more Rainbow Rowell because I really enjoyed it and I love her writing style. Okay guys, that's it from me. I'll see you next time with another video. Bye guys!